Hello everybody, it's Carrie from Stamp with CT. Happy Friday to you. It's time for our Friday Finding Inspiration video, and it is June of 2022. Wow. So I decided for the month of June that we are going to work on backgrounds for our cards. So today I'm bringing you a really fun technique that has been around for a long time, but it's been quite a while since I did it. And that is the bubble wrap technique to make a background. So as you can see here on my two little cards, I've got those little spots in the background, and I did that just with a little bit of bubble wrap, ink, and cardstock. So I was really happy with how these turned out. This one is in Tahitian Tide and the other one in Parakeet Party. So I thought it would be fun if I showed you how to make these backgrounds and then put together some cards like these. Let's get started. So the very first thing that I want to do is bring in the piece of bubble wrap. Now what's really fun about this is we all have bubble wrap from ordering products from Amazon, or even Stampin' Up. With every Stampin' Up package, there's a piece of bubble wrap inside. So we're going to start first with Tahitian Tide. Now I did put my silicone craft sheet underneath the bubble wrap, and what that is doing for me is giving a little bit more cushion, but it's also kind of showing me where I want to put my ink. Now I have plenty of lighting so it shows up well, but that just helped me to kind of keep things in a border. I'm using my Tahitian Tide and I'm just applying ink in the area where my silicone craft sheet is. So be prepared to get a little bit messy, because that's just how it is sometimes when we craft, isn't it? Now I want to make sure that I have plenty of ink. So I found that kind of twisting the ink pad really helped, and I go over that area a couple of times. Now you can see on the sides of my ink pad I have ink. For right now, I'm just going to close this up and I'm going to place this on my chamois that I have ready. And our chamois are awesome because all you need is water. So I'll show you in just a minute how I clean up my ink pad, but be aware that that's going to happen. I'm just going to place my cardstock down onto the bubble wrap. And then I use a piece of the grid paper that is designed for use with our Stamparatus, but I love having this grid paper available on my table. It's just the perfect size, and especially for something like this, it's going to keep my hands a little bit cleaner. I'm just going to very carefully add a little bit of pressure across all the areas to make sure they come in contact with the ink. And what's fun, this is a pretty good size bubble on this bubble wrap, but you can really use any size that you have, and you're really reusing something that's meant just for packaging, but you can make something fun with it. So now I just turn this whole thing over and remove the bubble wrap, and I'll set that aside. What I've been doing is just putting my chamois on top of it, and you can see the cute background. And it's not perfect, it's got some splotches, but that is part of the character of this. So now let me bring my ink pad back in, and I'll show you that just by putting it on my chamois, I got most of the ink off of the outside. And then when I open it back up, I can just come in and get those sides cleaned up, and it's as good as new. So don't forget that that ink is going to get on the sides of your ink pad, and clean that up and keep your ink pad in good shape. Okay, so that is our Tahitian Tide version, and it looks really good. I'm happy with that. So now we're going to bring in, for ease of the video, I went ahead and got a different piece of bubble wrap, but you could certainly reuse that piece of bubble wrap over and over, either using a damp paper towel, your chamois, or just rinsing the bubble wrap under water. So now we're going to come in with Parakeet Party. Do that same technique, adding ink. And I just found that by kind of brushing it as I twisted it a tiny bit, that I got more ink on there. I was happier. So don't be afraid to give it a try and see how it goes. Really not much of a learning curve with this. I've gotten a little bit on my fingers, but not too bad. So now we'll take this other piece of basic white cardstock. I did cut these pieces of cardstock at 4 1/4, no, at 4 by 5 1/4. But I'm going to cut them down a tiny bit. So my recommendation would be that you cut your cardstock a little bit larger than what you plan to use, so that you've got a little bit of leeway, because I'm going to trim off some of it to put it on my project. Okay, we'll see what it looks like now. Just flip all of this over. I just found it easier to lift up the bubble wrap. It seemed to make less of a mess when I did that. And again, I've got a cute little background. That one turned out really cute as well. So I'll get rid of this grid paper now. So let me bring in my trimmer. And I'll show you again on the projects that I did. Well, first I'm going to clean my ink pad off. How does that sound? We'll do that first. So again, this chamois just has water on it. And it's such a great quick cleanup. Now you can see that mine is stained. It's clean, but it's stained with ink, but that's okay. It still works just fine. So once I've used my chamois today, I will just rinse it with some water and it will be working just fine again. Okay, so with my projects that I created, what I did was put a mat of the color cardstock behind it from the ink that I used. So that's why I'm going to cut this down now to 5 inches by 3 3/4. So it gives me a chance to take a look at what I did. And I think I will trim along this side for the 3 3/4, just because of the way that the dots lined up on the other side. I like that better. Let's see about this one. Oh, this one is really lined up good, but we'll cut this one at 3 3/4. And then, oh, here comes the train. And then let's see, let's cut this in. I'm going to be able to cut them together because they're very similar in how they turned out. Just 5 inches. So 5 by 3 3/4 is what I need for my front panel. Okay, I've got some pieces cut here. Got my 2 card bases, which are both basic black, and I don't think I grabbed a bone folder, but I have one, I believe, pretty close here in my basket. I love to use a bone folder to get that good crisp fold. We'll get both of those card bases folded. I did score those ahead of time, so 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And I think that this time I'm going to do this card in this position. I'm going to mat that. And this one going this other way. Now, if you wanted to mix and match, let me just show you how that would look. You could always bring the Parakeet Party over here with a mat of Tahitian Tide. That would be fun. And vice versa. That would be really fun. Let's do that this time. Okay. Now somewhere I already have my center sentiments ready. Just looking for them right quick. What did I do with them? I found them. So what I did, I'll show you the stamp set that I'm using and also the dies. So we're using the very same sentiments. This is a stamp set that I love. It really drew my attention when I saw the new annual catalog because I absolutely love the large fonts, the bold fonts. You guys know I'm a font girl, and so I absolutely loved this stamp set. It's super, super cute. I've used it quite a bit already. And what I did was put these sentiments, the hey there and hugs, in my Stamparatus. I used Memento Tuxedo Black ink and I stamped them 2 times so that they would be nice and bold. That's one of the great things about using a stamp positioning tool. If you have a little mistake and you don't ink up your stamp completely, you have a chance to go back in and fix it. Or if you want your sentiments really, really bold, you can go back in and stamp multiple times your sentiments or your images and get a really nice look. Now we're using the stylized shapes dies, so the banner and then the squares. And again, those are new in our annual catalog and I absolutely love them. Let's do a little bit of work here on our sentiments. I think this is going to look super cute, mixing and matching the colors. And then I have the ribbon that carried over from our last catalog, the black and white gingham. And I love it so much. So we're going to use that with these cards. So I just look at the background when I decide where I'm going to put my sentiment. Sometimes you have a little bit more of an imperfection somewhere, so like this one I may decide to bring it over here. I think those dots turned out a little bit better. So just really wherever you want to place it. You may put it right in the center, but I think I'm going to bring mine over to this side. So I do have my ribbon. And I'm just going to use the cheater method. And I'm going to put some tape on the back side of this. Bring my ribbon across. Tape it again and then cut that excess off. I just find this quick and easy. Now you could of course use a tape runner. You could use your glue dots to do that, but look how quick that is. So we are ready to add this panel to the front of our card, to our mat. I kind of like mixing and matching the colors here. These new in colors work really well together and with other colors in our product line. It's been fun putting them in action. Okay, we can add this to our card front. And we'll let that dry for just a second. And get this sentiment ready to go on. Somewhere here, I think I have some dimensionals. I do. Giving that little bit of lift, I think, will be the perfect thing to add this sentiment on. Get all those backings off, those pesky little backings, but I love dimensionals. This sentiment was pretty tight on this square, but I like the way that turned out. And we'll add this right over here to the side. See if I've got that somewhat straight. I think that looks pretty good. Now let's come in with our ribbon and make a quick bow. I get asked all the time how to make a bow. I tend to make my loops super big and then just continue to work with it until it gets where I like it. That may be a tiny bit too big, so I'll just work with it a little bit more. Pulling on those tails and tightening the loops until I'm happy with it. And then I like to bring the tails together before I snip, so then they're very close in length. And I don't have to worry about trimming once it's on my project, and trimming too much. I tend to go back and forth and end up with super short tails if I do it that way. So I just really like bringing that together. Okay, so there's one project almost done, because of course we're going to need to add some bling here in just a minute. Now for this one, we've got this cute hugs sentiment. Who doesn't need a hug? And a card is just a hug with a fold in the middle. Somewhere we have a stamp that says that. I really like that. Can't think of what set that is on. Very true though. I love getting cards in the mail. Just knowing that someone was thinking about me makes you feel good. Add this on. You'll have to let me know if you prefer having the colors more matchy-matchy, or if you like mixing it up like this. I think this is turning out really cute. But I'm usually more of a matchy-matchy girl. Now this time I think we're just going to kind of swoosh that ribbon underneath. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of Stampin' Seal Plus here. Great adhesive. Because when I swoosh or tousle ribbon, I like to put that bit of Stampin' Seal Plus, kind of work my ribbon back and forth, and that way it's holding that in place for me. Probably need to move it over just a tiny bit so you can see it's repositionable. Got a little bit close to the edge. I'll just swoosh that ribbon back and forth across that adhesive, and it's holding that in place and giving me time to figure out if that's where I want it or not. Works out really, really well. And then when I add my sentiment with some Stampin' Dimensionals, that will continue to hold that in place. Let's go ahead and do that. There are lots of different ways to do things, but I like to show you what works for me, and hopefully it will work for you as well. We just learn from each other. And align that banner up with the edge of the card for our hugs. So turned out cute. Now we need some bling. I did grab my iridescent rhinestones because they are just awesome. But I have some other options as well. I have matte black dots, and then I have these in color dots. Now I've used all the Tahitian Tide dots making some swap cards, but I do still have these Parakeet Party. So I may go ahead, and I didn't grab my tool, but I may go ahead and just add a couple of these in a couple of places, some of the smaller ones, just to add a little bit of interest, maybe right there. So just a couple of them to add a little bit more color, bring in that Parakeet Party. And then for this one, we'll use some of the awesome iridescent rhinestones, and I don't think my sentiment is straight, is it? Just kind of put them in different places here on the card front. I'm going in where there's not a lot, like a little bit of a gap from my dot, from my bubble wrap. May have to work on this later, get it completely straight, but there you go. There are some projects using the bubble wrap technique to make our own backgrounds. And then I'll bring in the other two, the samples that I had for you, so you can remember how I dress those up just with a bow. And I hope that you enjoyed this. So be watching this month. We're going to have 4 weeks of backgrounds for you. Super excited about this. And if you have any ideas for finding inspiration, there's a dimensional back, of course. If you have any ideas for finding inspiration, just message me and let me know. I would love to hear what would help you. I feel like this Finding Inspiration series has been a lot of fun for me and for you as well. It gives us a little bit of a challenge. If you use the bubble wrap technique, please send me a picture of your project. I love to get pictures of projects. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already, the notification bell, and then if you enjoyed this video, if it helped you in any way, if you'll give me a thumbs up, I would appreciate that too. I'll see you again next week with another background. Thank you.